The candidates were nominated, and between July and August, they'll be presented before the UN Security Council. Later on in the year, they'll be presented before the UN Assembly for one to be picked or appointed to become Secretary General of the UN. That will happen then in Jan of 2027 there. But let me come to Allan first and foremost, because this announcement was made and Ambassador Dr. Olara Otunnu really accepted it at the media center. Your take on the gentleman that is the candidate for the country and the thinking behind it by the president?
You know, you have to give it to President Museveni. This is really the highest level of political chess you can ever come across. You know, by appointing Olara Otunnu, it's a huge statement. This was a sworn enemy of the president, politically at least, and they differed significantly, but the president has agreed for him to run as Uganda's candidate at the United Nations. We can debate whether he stands a chance or not, but at a local level, it's incredible that that has happened. And knowing their history, knowing the fact, the differences they've had over time, I applaud the president for showing that magnanimity and appointing Olara Otunnu, who's been probably one of his most fierce critics over the years. And also for Olara Otunnu personally, I think it's some sort of self-actualization. You know, the man is 75 years old now. He probably stood a better chance 30 years ago, but I wouldn't rule him out completely now because his impact on the United Nations is still being felt, and he probably will clock some mileage. Let's wait and see how it goes, and we wish him the very best in this pursuit.
Allan, sticking with you, because the Ambassador Olara Otunnu did want to vie in '96. Government didn't endorse him.
I think conversations have happened between him and President Museveni. As simple as that. I think, you know, there's a certain caliber of Ugandans. This General Museveni, these Amama Mbawazis, these people who could disagree, but also respect each other in those disagreements. Take different positions, but somehow maintain some level of respect. And I think there was some mutual respect all through, because it's very difficult to dismiss Olara Otunnu's, you know, profile. He's done significant things as a foreign minister. I think what has changed more than anything else is that a conversation has happened. And that conversation is what has led to the sort of rapprochement, I don't know what the right phraseology is, between the two. And for me, this is the icing on the cake. This is the, and from President Museveni's perspective, it just makes me even much more interested in the person and the thinking of the president, because he has moved a chess piece, and it's a very interesting move that he has made. And it will be interesting to see how it plays out. Does he expect Olara Otunnu to win? I don't know. Does it matter if Olara Otunnu wins or not? Probably not. But Uganda will be in the contest.
Thank you. Professor Balunywa, Ambassador Otunnu comes with a wealth of experience on the diplomatic scene, but also having been Minister of Foreign Affairs, having been Undersecretary to the UN when Kofi Annan was there. But also the candidates, the other 6 candidates, in the most recent past, have been in the governments of their countries. Mentioned like the candidate from Senegal has been in cabinet, there has been a diplomat.
Has been president.
Has been a president.
Macky Sall.
Yes. And you see this, how does that play in for the space that he hasn't been in any political scene or any diplomatic scene? What makes him formidable?
I think if you go by the African Union principles, ordinarily you would expect that the African Union should back a candidate. And I'm surprised to learn that Senegal has put up somebody.
Yes.
So it would have been good for Dr. Olara Otunnu if he was the only candidate from Africa. So you would have this block vote, hopefully, that would come into play. But this is something we want to discuss, whether actually that block vote can actually come.
Yes.
But I mean, given his experience, definitely he's the most ideal candidate. And even looking at the continent, he's somebody who's been in diplomacy for that long, Minister of Foreign Affairs for that long, and definitely the most ideal candidate. And what Anne is saying, something about President Museveni's reconciliatory spirit is what beats us all, because we didn't expect that. But if you go back into history, for him to run government effectively, he's gone and talk to people he's been shooting guns with. You know, and Museveni was one example, the late Museveni, and many others. So I think the candidacy is unique because, first of all, it was not expected. Two, given that history they had behind them, and the need for the country to also be at peace with itself, I think is the right candidate.
Professor Apuli, the 6 candidates had the town hall last week. A very rigorous debate, talked about crisis, talked about what's happening around the world. Our very own Ambassador Olara wasn't there. What does this mean for his chances, especially now that we all know that there are 7 candidates that are running for the Secretary General?
There is so much to say about this candidature, but I think for me the point would be the town hall would have added something to the candidature of Olara Otunnu, because then the other candidates have been exposed to the General Assembly, which is supposed to do the appointment. Of course, the rules say that the Secretary General is appointed by the General Assembly on the recommendation of the Security Council. Now, crucially, of course, having missed out on the town hall, but he still has a chance because you have to canvass the UN Security Council. And I think that's where the really most important decision is going to be made. And not the entire of the Security Council, but rather the P5, the permanent 5. Because once the P5 have agreed, it's certain 100% that you're going to be appointed. So yes, he missed out on the town hall, but he still has a chance between now and November, when the final vote is taken. Tomorrow we are going to go into the straw polling, where the council members are going to be asked to vote informally, but to indicate their preference. Now the process, how it unravels is that the council will be given, members will be given papers. The 10 non-permanent members will be given white papers. They vote on white. The permanent members are given two sets, if I remember off my head. One is green, and the other used to be blue, now it's red. So where they indicate to encourage, if you want to encourage the candidate to go forward, you vote on the green. If you want to discourage the candidate, you vote on red. And then that will give us an indication. So by the end of Friday, we'll get an indication out of the 7, how many people have been discouraged, how many candidates have been discouraged from going forward. So yes, so the most crucial thing for me would be that he does not get any veto, or does not get any veto from the P5. But even if you got a veto from any of the P5, because history has shown that the previous Secretaries General, Dag Hammarskjöld, Youthant, Kurt Waldheim, Kofi Annan, Boutros Ghali, all of them got at least one success. They got a discouraging vote, but that did not stop them becoming a Secretary General. But the most important thing is not really to get any of the negative votes. And I think with the CV which Dr. Olara Otunnu has presented, the vision which he has presented, those 10 points, in terms of the reforms, the Pact of the Future, UN at 80, all this, I think would make him a very strong candidate. Although, of course, also we must put a caveat that the multilateral system in general is in trouble. Is in trouble. Why? Because of the geopolitics that is happening, the crisis that we have seen in the Middle East, the war in Ukraine, and the whole thinking among the permanent members of the Council that the UN should do less. That's why some of the members have left some of the most important structures. So yes, Dr. Olara Otunnu has his work cut out for him.
Professor, before I leave you to come to Honorable Mbidde, you mentioned something about how interesting this candidature is. What do you mean by that?
The interesting thing is, and again, we also need to look at this from the point of view of the domestic politics. And I would want to associate myself with what Allan and the Prof has said, that part of the longevity of the NRM government is to be able to reach out at very crucial times to extend a hand to the former opponents. That in 2026, we can have a government of Uganda supporting or putting forward a candidate who, when he was the Undersecretary General for Children in Armed Conflict, he was the first occupant of that office. And the things he said and wrote about what was happening in northern Uganda. And now, so many years down the road, 30 years or so, the same government can nominate him for this very prestigious position, which of course also we need to remember that when we talk about the Macky Sall's candidature, Macky Sall was not nominated by Senegal, he was nominated by Burundi. Why? Because he had fallen out with the government of the current government in Senegal. Macky Sall is Senegalese, currently is living in Morocco, nominated by Burundi. Of course, now the realignment of domestic politics in Senegal the current government has agreed to support him. But there is that bit also, and I think also we need to go into this because the candidature of Macky Sall is not supported by the AU. In fact, when he was first nominated by Burundi, 24 African countries objected, including his own Senegal. They said, look, this is not our candidate because he has not gone through the processes of the African Union, which is the Credentials Committee to agree a common position and all that, which of course Dr. Olara Otunnu also suffers from because he is really not a candidate for the African Union. But that notwithstanding, what I think is interesting is the point that the President Museveni and his government, the way they are able, our very own person who is here, Mukasa Mbidde, went to the East African Legislative Assembly, because of that extending of the hand by the NRM, where Mbidde was described as a good DP, and he became a member of Yala. And he has served 10 years in Yala, courtesy of the support that he got from. So, and I think that's the mature politics which Allan is talking about, that we should be able to go beyond. This is what we have been lacking in this country, that we need to go beyond some of this, the punch and Judy kind of politics that we, as the British call it. And we really stand on principle and we say this is our candidate and we can support this person. So,
thank you.
So give it to the NRM.
Honorable Mbidde, already punches have been thrown your way.
Yes.
In good faith. When you look at, especially for the domestic politics that Professor Apuli was talking about, what does this mean? Because between 2010 and 2015, this was the height of the Uganda People's Congress. At the helm of it was Dr. Olara Otunnu. What does this mean for politics in Uganda at large?
There is something very interesting when you get to both sub-regional and global political contexts. There is usually no latitude provided for opposition sentiment, except if you are in rebellion, because you cannot oppose a country. You cannot oppose a government. And you cannot find, I have been, for example, to the East African Legislative Assembly for 10 years. I have not found any opportunity whatsoever for me to oppose anything related to political parties in Uganda, whether NRM or any other. So generally, there is no point that arises except points that have everything to do with whether or not you support your country or not. Where, for example, of course, by all necessary conformity, you'll be supporting your country. So both sub-regional and global opportunities provide no alternative for dissenting ideas relating to which government leads your country. And I think that is why, for me, President Museveni also thinks that Olara Otunnu can be in position to be Secretary General, backed by Uganda. However, of course, I also find that the opposition colleagues need to understand it is extremely important that a person with opposition sentiments becoming Secretary General of the UN, it is an easier route for us to pursue our perspectives through him. It is easier, even by WhatsApp, than what is happening, for example. So for me, I would support him entirely. Now, the president of Uganda needs to be given a lot of credit for what Allan has also called the magnanimity. We will also add meekness and ignobility. This is a kind that you will never find. The manner in which he looks at perspectives is mind-boggling. You will never know how he plays his chess. Whether or not Dr. Otunnu wins, I am telling you, the president of Uganda has already won. He has played his chess. Dr. Otunnu will no longer accuse him of not having backed him in the 90s when he chose to definitely run for the same position. It is also surprising that he actually ran. He was nominated, I think, by Senegal? Cote d'Ivoire. Ivorian, yes. So I can tell you that what Mark Sally was about to suffer from, of course, notwithstanding the fact that obviously now the country is tending towards, gravitating towards now supporting the cause. There is something that we need to look at. When Dr. Otunnu proposes radical and robust amendments to the UN, of course, operation structure, the question is, why is the structure the way it is? Who is aggrieved? Now, if the answer is that it is preferred to be as permanent as it is, then obviously that doesn't qualify us for the vote. I can tell you that Africa, per se, is a complainant in terms of the current organization structure of the UN system. So clearly, if regard is to be made, for me, my fear would be of Rodriguez, who is the candidate from Guyana. Because now Guyana, because it is a member, of course, of the non-permanent members of the 10. So if you have got somebody who is there amongst the 10, of course, in addition to the P5, but somebody who can be in position to shape debates, to be able to align some bit of, you may find that such a candidate will have leverage over Dr. Otunnu. It is going to be surprising that Dr. Otunnu may make it. For example, what are the questions that create the objective reasons that will make it a logical necessity for him to be elected? For example, what would be the interest that is available by the P5 in terms of who should become Secretary General? What are the roles required? A Secretary General of the UN, in terms of the lenses of the P5, is akin to a vice president of an African country. Who would you prefer? Is it an active vice president almost akin to taking over your seat, or somebody who may not be in position to even see at night? So African leaders would prefer the person that cannot be even in position to catch a tortoise. That should be your vice president. Because their worry day and night is whether you can target their own seats. So the P5 might prefer somebody from Uganda, might prefer Dr. Otunnu, and I can tell you a perspective of that nature may carry the day, and we would get breaking news in Uganda.
And we'll come back to that about the P5 and their interests here. Professor, while Dr. Otunnu was accepting the nomination from the president, you also mentioned, minus the 10 points, you also mentioned something he did that now is called the consensus, the Otunnu something there in the UN. Does this give him a foot into the race, like a lead into the race before his other 6 candidates there? And what does he have to bring more on the table since he already missed a town hall?
Well, I think matters of the UN are as unpredictable as members have presented them, but he has been there before. He has led peace initiatives around children in war. I hope that can give him an advantage, but he also enters the race against other formidable candidates. Okay, for him, he has served in the UN and in different portfolios, but the other people have been presidents. And of course, here we are talking about, oh, you see, he's not the Africa candidate. But I looked where for us we are complaining about not having an Africa candidate. The other 5 candidates are all from Latin America or something like that. Guyana, Ecuador, Chile. Pardon?
It's the turn for Latin America.
It's the turn for Latin America. So you don't even have a single candidate for Latin America. There are quite a number of them nominated by one or the other. So, and of course, the interesting thing is there are very many women. There are at least 4 women, which is very impressive. Many of them also have been ex-heads of state. So I think the whole lineup are very formidable candidates. And it is good that our own is part of that, because like, it's not an exclusive club, but very distinguished persons at that level. So for me, I'm excited that at the time we are talking about that level of creme de la creme, Uganda has a candidate there, nominated by our head of state. And like someone has said, whether he wins or not, Uganda has already won. The president has already won. So for us, we are happy that he's there. So does he stand a chance? I really don't know. I think Philip is very good at discussing these things. For the different number of days and nights, he has been discussing them on the WhatsApp groups of the Professors Forum in Makerere, how the voting will take place and whatever. So I think each of them stands a chance. And if it is a turn for Latin America, then maybe it's not necessarily a turn for Africa. But we are happy that we got to participate. And we hope that actually he can win. If he wins, we shall be very happy. If he doesn't win, we shall still be very happy that His Excellency nominated him, and we got a candidate in, even if we don't win.